This is Weights and Wealth, your one-stop shop for entertaining education on building a stronger body and bank account.
We are not doctors or financial advisors and must warn you this is not medical or investing advice. It is for your entertainment. Welcome back to another episode of Weights and Wealth. We'll start out with our shout out today, which is Dawson from Milwaukee. He shared us on Twitter. He just started his Twitter account probably 6 months ago, and he's already over 1,500 followers. He's very active on it. I don't know if that's a great avenue for Weights and Wealth to go, but I don't know. It's not the best medium for promoting a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. We're a little longer form, so.
We are. Yeah. We are trying to get more into the short form content, though. We found a website that's going to help us build out pretty cool videos for TikTok and YouTube shorts.
Yeah, it'll save us a lot of time for splitting up those clips.
Mm-hmm.
Our weights wisdom of the week is to keep something by your desk, like a dumbbell or a kettlebell or even a band, and just do a few reps several times a day throughout the day. Or if you work at home, you can keep it by the kitchen, just anywhere where it's easily accessible, and you can just do a couple reps of something consistently throughout the day, just to stay active and avoid being sedentary. And then also just getting a pump like throughout the day, especially in the office, showing up your other guys that work in the office is pretty nice. So.
What do you call them? Trigger sessions?
Yeah, trigger sessions. That's a term from Sal DiStefano over at Mind Pump. His big thing, the way he explains it, is when guys are in jail and they're just having massive amounts of frequency doing like pull-ups and push-ups, and they get really good gains from that. You wouldn't think it's like the optimal environment for them. It's not like they have a lot of control over their diet or anything, but they're able to get pretty good gains just from the massive amount of frequency. So,
yeah, there's another guy in my office who's really into powerlifting. He told me he squatted 670. He's a big dude. He weighs almost 300 pounds, but still a 670 pound squat's impressive.
Yeah.
But me and him were talking about getting a set of dumbbells or something like that,
just to keep in the desk.
Yeah. So
should do it.
Yeah.
Follow the weights wisdom, Nick.
I should, yeah. And we're also getting the pink salt as well for our water.
There you go.
Filtered water. On the way here, we listened to a podcast on water by Andrew Huberman. It was really interesting.
Okay.
But it was just 2 hours about water.
Alex, can you confirm? Was it interesting?
I fell asleep.
Alex fell asleep. Me and Katie kept pausing it, talking about it.
So some people thought it was
interesting. All right. For our intro article and our talk this week, we're going to be talking a little bit of fantasy football.
It's actually a self-made article, I believe, for this week.
Yes, it is. So I am the author of this week's article.
So we have a Dynasty fantasy football league, and with Dynasty leagues, you keep the same team every year. And so because of that, you just draft rookies every year, but people wind up doing a lot of trades. So if you like fantasy football, we both highly recommend doing a Dynasty league with your friends because everyone is so much more involved. And it's a really good way for us to stay in touch with our really good friends from college because that fantasy football group chat is always blowing up. And without that, I have a really hard time like staying in touch with a lot of the guys, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's hard to stay in touch with people. Everyone's so busy. But with fantasy football, we're able to stay in touch pretty well, and we're all going to get together for the draft over the summer. So it'll be a good time. But Nick came out with like power rankings, and I made like the banners for each team at the top in Photoshop. And Nick's going to keep releasing like monthly in the off season and then weekly power rankings. But we're going to read a couple excerpts because Nick did a really great job and it was really funny and everyone in the league thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to make. And it ended up being 6 pages and I think it looked really good too. Like you did a great job with the Photoshop.
Thanks. It's not that hard, but
do you want to read yours first or?
Why don't you go ahead? I'll pick one while you read.
Okay, so we one of the problems that can come up with Dynasty, especially when you don't know the people in your league, is that some people aren't active and just don't have time for it really, or in some cases have a bad team and just don't care anymore. But
well, Dynasty, it fixes that because since you get draft picks, and if you do bad, you get the top draft pick, just like the NFL, you can turn your team around, especially if you trade all your good players for draft picks in the future.
Hypothetically. But Reagan,
not every team can do that.
Our friend Reagan, who took over this team, had a very bad roster and very few draft picks too. but he's been just trading away all his players for future round draft picks. So I'll read the little excerpt that I wrote about that team. So Reagan Tuffy took over as the team's general manager this year, taking over arguably the worst team in Fantasy Flyers, put Reagan in a tough spot, but he has been making some moves this offseason. Reagan put his team in full-on rebuild mode and has acquired 5 2023 draft picks since he took over. This season does not look good for Reagan, but if he continues to sell off his old assets for picks, this could be a team to watch in 2025. Which is something that's really cool about Dynasty, is that the teams that are good tend to switch over time. Because right now I have myself third, so I'm trying to trade my draft picks for the best players I can get.
Yeah, it's just like the NFL. There'll be teams like the Rams a couple years ago that basically trade all of their draft picks for all the best veteran players to try to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the payout is huge in our league for first place. So like, if you have a team that you think can go all the way, you try to build a super team by trading away your draft picks. But now this is our third year into it. So now we've got a few teams at the top that are just super teams. And then we've got a few teams at the bottom that have made bad trades and are just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I know Finn's team, some of the guys his starters aren't even signed right now. Poor guy.
I'll read another excerpt. This is for Team Burn Dog. Is Burn Dog wanting to make a championship or rebuild? It's impossible to know at any given moment. Burn Dog's general manager, Bernie Tippin, is famous for making huge swing trades midway through the season. Bernie comes in at number 11 before the 2023 rookie draft. There are a lot of questions surrounding a couple players. If they all hit, Burn Dog might be able to slip into the playoffs. This team also has 4 first-round picks. Bernie traded like all of his best players to me last year. I gave him like 5 first-round picks because I had a bunch stashed. But basically what we're trying to say is if you like playing fantasy football, we highly recommend you switch to Dynasty because it makes the league so much more fun. I was never in a league where people were like actually trading before Dynasty. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because like you're always playing to win, and you don't have draft picks to add to a trade, so you're just trading one player for another player, and that's about it. And they don't really happen.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the weights and wealth content. We apologize to anyone that doesn't like fantasy football, but our main demographic here is like 16 to 25-year-old guys. So
yeah, that's
got to cater to our audience.
So do you want to explain the rule of 3, because you've known about this longer than I have?
Yeah. So the rule of 3 is basically you can't get something if you want something to be fast, cheap, and good quality. It's very hard or nearly impossible to get all 3 of those things. Usually you have to sacrifice one of those qualities for the other 2. So through this episode, we'll kind of break down how that applies to weights and to wealth.
Yeah, and in most situations, I would rather sacrifice time. That's usually what you do when you're in a good situation, but sometimes there's high pressure and you have to do something quickly and you have to sacrifice one of the other ones or both. So the first thing that I'll talk about is rushing into big purchases, because these are things that you can save a lot of money on. A lot of people like to think of savings in terms of percent. I try to go real dollars. Like if you save $50 on a car, it's like saving $50 on an iPhone. It's still $50 more dollars in your pocket. So just for big purchases, you really want to take the time. Like with a house, I don't know how long it took you to go through the whole process. It seemed relatively quick because you had to move here fast.
Yeah. I mean, for the Army, generally, you wind up buying pretty quickly. It still took us, like 2 months almost from the time we started looking for a house. Yeah, about 2 months. So, I mean, we were diligent because we knew that we wanted to find a 3-bed, 2-bath that when we leave Tennessee will cash flow that we can rent out. So we were pretty picky about the house and what the monthly payment was going to be. But
yeah, so spending some extra time on it should benefit you in the future.
Yeah.
And this is the case for real estate a lot of the time. Like people who are into flipping or buying fixer-uppers, they generally look for distressed properties where the owner needs to move quickly for whatever reason, because those tend to be a lot cheaper. And so from the owner's perspective, they don't have much time to sell. But also from the buyer's perspective, those take longer to find because usually people aren't in those situations.
Yeah, you got to find like a wholesaler a lot of times for that.
Yeah. So the whole real estate market is pretty interesting in that because Ted mentioned wholesalers. So there's all these different roles that people play between realtor, wholesaler, flipper, long-term renter.
Yeah, based off if you're looking to sacrifice the time that you get the property in or the quality that it's in or how much it is, right? That's the big three right there. So
yeah, exactly. And I know there was a lot of interest in our Airbnb episode. I actually had a few people reach out about it, wanting to either know more or just saying that it was really cool. So I think we're going to try to do an interview with somebody that does the Airbnb arbitrage.
Yeah, one of my good friends and a big supporter of the Weights and Wealth book club, we're going to try to get him on. We just got to figure out the travel with that because as you can see, our podcast is in person and we avoid the Zoom interviews. So we'll see if we can get that done.
Yeah. And then one note that Ted added is that Amazon is starting to beat good, fast, and cheap.
Yes, Amazon is an enigma. They've mastered the big three. They're somehow, you can get quality and it's cheap and it's fast. So that's why they have such a large company. They're able to master all three things. So everybody wants to use them, right? I mean, how many times have you heard someone say like, "Oh, I don't want to support Amazon," and then they have a Prime account and they always get things shipped to their door? Like, it's just so convenient. So
yeah, I mean, I don't shop there. I mean, I don't really buy too many things that Amazon. I mean, I guess they sell everything, so I do buy things that they sell, but I'm not in that much of a hurry because I know when they came out with 2-day shipping, like that was huge. I don't know if it's faster now or not.
I think sometimes you get things in one day.
One day.
Just wait till the drones come.
What's that?
Just wait till the drones come and they have drones dropping off packages.
Yeah. Because I mean, they have a lot of independent contractors, I think, because a lot of the vans they have are small, and that's probably because they have so many of them that they don't need a big truck. They just have a lot of employees just dropping off packages.
Yeah, I think Walmart has bigger trucks because Walmart has the infrastructure. This is like a really interesting thing, I think. Walmart had the infrastructure before Amazon did to like ship everything to people quickly just because of how many Walmarts there are and like how they ship things and where things are in stores and their warehouses. But they didn't capitalize on the online aspect as well as Amazon did. So Amazon kind of beat them. But
do they do 2-day shipping as well or anything like that you know?
I know that Walmart will ship to you, but it's just like, I mean, it's one of those things like once people start using a certain company, it's hard to get them to switch. And like Amazon just kind of has that market locked down for right now, it seems.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with my dad about Blockbuster and Netflix. Like Blockbuster could have easily pivoted into being Netflix. Like they already had the name, but Netflix just... I think they started mailing DVDs first, and then they quickly just got into what they have now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you're at the top because you wind up playing defense. It's just like natural. And you don't innovate usually as fast as a company that's trying to catch you. So,
which, yeah, perhaps from Blockbuster's perspective, it was a lot riskier. Whereas, Netflix was a startup. They're just like, they have angel investing. They are expected to just be burning cash. Whereas was Blockbuster public? I would assume so.
I don't know.
Maybe our producer Alex can look that up for us quick.
Was Blockbuster a public company?
But I think there's still one Blockbuster left, I believe.
Yeah,
or
it's like a relic.
Yeah, it's
like
a time capsule. Museum.
Yes, it was.
Blockbuster was public.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see the crash on that stock. Is it just like a massive drop off? Do you have their stock pulled up?
That is one of kind of the negatives, though, with having a stock market like ours, because shareholders expect a constant return on investment. Otherwise, they get unhappy. So it's a lot harder for CEOs to think long term, because that might mean poor returns in the short run, even though the benefits in the future will outweigh the short-term consequences.
Don't worry, guys. Weights and Wealth is not going public. Nick and I will continue to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yes. Yep. We won't have a board to answer to or anything like that. But speaking about investing in our company, we are looking for a video editor.
Yes.
So Ted doesn't have to do that anymore. So if you're good at video editing and you like what we talk about, please email us.
Yes. If you think that you align with the 5 F's here at Weights and Wealth, we are actively looking for someone to join the team. So if you have experience with video editing, we use Adobe, so I've been running Adobe Audition and After Effects, but if you use a different software, I don't care if I'm not the one editing, so. But let us know, and then we can, we'd love to talk.
Yeah, that's all I had from the wealth side.
All right. On the weight side, I had more of a programming aspect, so I kind of changed the big 3 and I transitioned it to volume, frequency, and intensity. So we'll just kind of go through a few of the examples of having 2 out of the 3. And we will, at the end, make fun of a certain type of workout that tries to include all 3. So if you want to try to guess what that is before we get there, listeners,
I got 2 guesses.
You can probably guess
I don't know what it is. I got 2 guesses, though.
All right. So for high volume and frequency, if you have both of those, you're probably going to wind up with lower intensity. For me, this would oftentimes look like a bro split, where you're doing push-pull legs, rest, and you're in the gym 6 days a week. It's really hard to go high intensity if you're doing that, because you just start to feel beat up and tired from like overtraining. So your body, at least for me, kind of naturally limits you on the intensity side, because you'll just get tired from overtraining unless you're blasting 300 milligrams of caffeine pre-workout every day, which, I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah. Well, this is actually similar to the program that I'm running now, because I'm training for a powerlifting competition, and this is the one I'm doing before my peaking program, and it's only 6 weeks, and I think that's because it's 6 days a week. I'm doing one 5x5 and then 3 4x8s.
Okay.
With 2-minute rest for the first one and minute 30 for the rest. And I ran it before. I actually got it from Goots. He sent me that one.
Does it have RPE or RIR, or how are you regulating intensity?
So I put in like my maxes, and it's a percentage of them. Oh, okay. So the weight is lower. Like my bench, I started at 225 for a 5x5, which is very easy. And then it goes up 5 pounds a week. And then after that, I'll be doing 3 days a week, but very high intensity and weight. Yeah,
so we can move on to that one. I've got, I guess, let's see. Let's go to high intensity and volume and low frequency. I've done this before when we lived in Milwaukee. I was only lifting twice a week, and I had really high intensity and kind of high volume, I guess, if you just speak in terms of like load, because I was doing really big lifts, and then I was doing a lot of like farmer walks and stuff like that, where I like the amount of weight I was using in the workout was pretty high, just from squats and deadlifts, all barbell movements really. But I read Dinosaur Training, which is a pretty good book if you're interested in like strongman type training or strength training, like for strength, not just lifting, but like getting really strong. And I took some things from that and ran a program kind of like that, and I had really, really good gains from it. I was getting really strong, and I was only lifting 2 days a week, but the frequency is what I minimized there, and I was seeing good results. And then another one you can do is high frequency and intensity and lower volume. So this is like what we talked about in the last episode with like trigger sessions. You know, you're constantly getting lifts and pumps in. You're not like destroying your your CNS with a ton of weight. But a lot of people would also kind of put like HIIT workouts in this category. People that do body pump classes every morning or some sort of like group fitness class a lot of times every week. So that's just a different adaptation you're going for. It's not personally my favorite, but you and I mean, we both just always bias towards heavy lifting. So.
Yeah. Wait, so you said high intensity and high frequency? Is that what? Okay,
yeah.
Because I've done stuff before where like I'll squat pretty heavy every day for a week. And that has added good weight onto my squat. I mean, part of it could just be getting the form down, because after a week of squatting every day, your form is like second nature.
Yeah, that's like the Squattober thing. When you're doing like squats every day, a lot of the gains that people get from that, I think, is just getting good at squatting from practicing a lot. So,
yeah. Whereas now, if I'm squatting like 2 days a week, or really back squatting only 1 day a week. Like every time I get under the bar, I still feel like a little off balance.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about doing that again, just to get the form down.
Yeah. Or like with some clients that are kind of like newer to those lifts, what I'll do is I'll use a really light weight and throw it in at the end of the workout, just as like a practice.
Okay.
Especially if they're not focusing on like barbell lifts during that block, it's just like a practice at the end of their workout so that they retain that skill while they're doing more like machines if they're in a like hypertrophy phase and we're taking a break from barbells.
Okay.
Time for all three. Nick, what is your guess? You said you had two thoughts. Let's hear one of them.
That have all three?
Yeah.
CrossFit.
Well, you just scrolled down.
Oh, no. I did not look, I swear. I was going to say CrossFit and then Orange Theory, because those are the two that you like to pick on a lot.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people have the perception of CrossFit as injuring people, which is kind of true, kind of not true. But if you are hard driving with high intensity, volume, and frequency, you are more likely to get injured and not see gains. So you just kind of got to respect your body and not give it more than it can recover from. Because if you look at like the point of your workout, you want to stress the body so that it sends a signal and drives an adaptation. But if you stress it too hard, then it's not going to be able to recover enough. So if you think of like having like a baseline and the stress drives you below the baseline, then it comes back up and you want it to finish above that baseline with your recovery. Like super compensation is what it's called. But if you stress it too hard, the recovery won't get you back up to that baseline. And that's what happens when people overtrain. So to avoid overtraining, pick 2 out of these 3 variables we talked about, manipulate those, and leave the other one low. So
yeah, and overtraining, like Ted was kind of saying, can lead to injury, because when I did the squat thing, I had my hands really close together on the bar, and I started getting shoulder pain just because of how jacked up my shoulders were. I mean, I put my hands further away, and that made it feel better. But stuff like that happens when you're doing high intensity, volume, and frequency.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we will be back with you in a few days or a week, or depending on when this episode comes out. We're still trying to figure out the. Actually, this should be post hard drive collapse, so we'll be good. Yeah. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Thanks for joining us today at Weights and Wealth, and don't forget to apply today's lessons to live healthy and wealthy.
If this conversation will contribute to your fitness and financial gains, please share it with a friend or family member and give a 5-star review so more people can lift bigger weights and get bigger bank accounts.